Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Steelers TJ Watt sounds off on Nick Herbig's breakout performance. Linebacker TJ Watt continued his hot start to the 2024 season with another sack in Week 3. But fellow edge rusher Nick Herbig came off the bench to star for the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Los Angeles Chargers on September 22. Replacing an injured Alex Highsmith, Herbig posted 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits and 3 solo tackles. Both of his sacks came in the second half, helping the Steelers hold the Chargers to negative yardage after halftime. It was the first multi-sack performance of Herbig's NFL career. Watt addressed Herbig's breakout day with the media after the Steelers defeated the Chargers 20-10. "Not surprised, man. That kid works his tail off," Watt said to reporters. "That kid has supreme confidence in himself," Watt continued when asked another question on Herbig. "You can't tell him anything, and I respect the heck out of it. He's going to everything he possibly can to perform. He's going to ask every question, he's going to turn over every stone, and bust his tail. I respect the heck out of Nick, and I'm glad he had the day that he did today." The second season in the NFL can often be the time a lot of players make the biggest improvements in their career. That's certainly the case for a few Steelers defenders. Cornerback Joey Porter Jr. and Keanu Benton are becoming staples on Pittsburgh's defense. Benton helped the Steelers' defensive line hold the Chargers, who had the number 2 rushing offense after Week 2, to just 61 rushing yards on September 22. Unable to run the ball, the Steelers' pass rush began to break through in the second half in Week 3. Pittsburgh sacked Chargers quarterbacks 5 times, all of which came after halftime. Porter was in coverage on the Chargers' lone touchdown of the day. But it was only the second passing touchdown the Steelers have allowed in 3 contests this season. In addition to Herbig, Watt addressed how strong all of the unit's second-year players are performing early in the 2024 campaign. Herbig, Keanu, Benton. Just those second-year players, Joey, Porter. You see the jump because you're so much more comfortable out there, Watt said. You're not just out there saying, I have curl flat, disc drop. It's like, okay, I know what I have. Now I can hear. I can use all of my senses and diagnose what I think is potentially happening on this play. That's why I think you see that jump from those guys from year 1 to year 2. But, with that being said, it's because they want to learn. Herbig received his chance to play after Highsmith left with a groin injury late in the second quarter. The Steelers listed him doubtful to return at halftime. On Los Angeles' second play from scrimmage of the second half, Herbig sacked Justin Herbert and knocked the ball loose. The Chargers recovered the fumble, but the play helped result in a Los Angeles punt. Herbig recorded his second sack on backup quarterback Taylor Heinicke about midway through the fourth quarter. The seriousness of Highsmith's groin injury is not clear. But it's not usually a good sign when players are doubtful to return immediately after departing. The Steelers, though, appear capable of overcoming a Highsmith injury with Herbig as their number 3 edge rusher. Speaking to reporters after Week 3, Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin agreed with Watt, crediting Herbig's development to his studying and working with Pittsburgh's starting edge rushers. "This guy wants to be great, but he's looking at the recipe every day of his life too," Tomlin said. "He just does. He's sharp enough to follow guys at his position that have been doing it at a high level who have been doing it longer than him, and I think that positions him more than anything to produce what it is you're looking at." In addition to Highsmith, cornerback Corey Trice exited the first half with a hamstring injury. Wide receiver Van Jefferson was poked in the eye but returned to action in the second half. Tomlin also told reporters he pulled running back Jaylen Warren from the game late in the fourth quarter because it didn't look like he was running smoothly. The Steelers will have a more thorough injury update on September 24. Broderick Jones takes his first step in getting out of Mike Tomlin's doghouse. In the Steelers' win over Denver, Broderick Jones had a horrible performance, with 3 penalties on 1 drive. After that, Mike Tomlin promptly benched him. He undoubtedly got an earful from Tomlin on the Tuesday following the Denver game. Whatever Tomlin said to him must have had some effect. With Troy Fautanu out with an injury, Tomlin had to slip Broderick back into the offensive line Sunday against the Chargers. Jones wasted no time trying to get back into the good graces of Mike Tomlin. Broderick Jones performed much better against the Chargers. Whatever Tomlin said to Broderick Jones following the win in Denver, he must have taken it to heart. The Jones we saw against the Chargers was much better than the one we saw in the preseason and the first 2 weeks of the young NFL season. He was not pitch perfect, however, he did not draw 1 penalty the entire game. One mistake he did make came early in the game. He missed a blocking assignment, allowing pressure on Justin Fields. Short of that one mistake, he stayed on his blocks and did not hold, playing a much cleaner game. His improvement helped to upset the 2-0 Chargers, in which the Steelers needed sustained offensive drives and couldn't afford to shoot themselves in the foot as they did against the Broncos. If there were any shortcomings in the Steelers' offense mistake-wise this week, it was Cordarrelle Patterson and Connor Hayward failing to line up on the offensive line correctly, which did lead to calling back a huge reception by Pat Freiermuth in the second half. However, referees called no holding penalties on any of the offensive linemen. Hence, the game was a much better game collectively from the offensive line. The lack of mistakes allowed the Steelers to sustain drives at crucial times and allowed Phillips to make big plays when needed. As long as the Steelers' offensive line can play as it did against the Chargers, the Steelers' offense should be able to play more competitively for the rest of the season. Plus, now at 3-0 for the season, a lack of mistakes should help when it comes time to play their AFC North opponents later in the season. With Troy Fautanu now on injured reserve and expected to miss the rest of the season, perhaps along with Nate Herbig, Broderick Jones will need to up his game. Playing well against the Chargers is an excellent first step, but there are still 14 games left in which he will need to play mistake-free football, especially if the Steelers want to make a postseason run in the playoffs. Report: Steelers RB Jaylen Warren to undergo MRI on his knee after getting pulled in Week 3. The Pittsburgh Steelers pulled out a win over the Los Angeles Chargers in Week 3, but unfortunately, despite the W, they did not emerge unscathed. RB Jaylen Warren mysteriously disappeared from the lineup, taking his last snap with 10:29 left to go in the third quarter, and apparently, it was due to injury. Brooke Pryor of ESPN notes that HC Mike Tomlin acknowledged that Warren wasn't running smoothly, so they decided to pull him from the game. Warren is now set to undergo an MRI on his knee, Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports reported after the game. Watching Warren's play through the game, he did appear to be slightly hobbled at times. Warren was dealing with a hamstring injury suffered during the preseason but was cleared to play in Week 1. Now, he's caught another tough break as the team was ramping up his workload. In his absence, RB/KR/former WR Cordarrelle Patterson saw an uptick in work, also playing some snaps at wide receiver absent Van Jefferson, who exited early with an eye injury. Patterson finished the game with 4 carries for 33 yards and 3 catches for another 15 yards through the air. The team suffered several tough blows in the Week 3 contest beyond Warren and Jefferson, with CB Corey Trice, hamstring, and OLB Alex Highsmith, groin, also exiting due to their respective injuries. All of this comes just one day after news broke that rookie OT Troy Fautanu was headed to injured reserve with a knee injury. The Steelers are set to travel to face the Indianapolis Colts in Week 4, who enter this game with a 1-2 record and some struggles of their own on offense. Expect Najee Harris to get all of the work he can handle until Warren is healthy moving forward, with a healthy dose of Patterson for good measure. The Steelers currently have 2 running backs on their practice squad, including Jonathan Ward and Aaron Shampklin. And you fan? What do you think of the situation of Jaylen Warren? Leave your opinion in the comments.